there's this old lady.
I'm kidding. Is Lars here?
Yeah. You know, even when Lars isn't here, he's here.
He's watching right now through this video. There he is! What timing?
Lars is everywhere.
He is everywhere.
In all seriousness, it's usually the other way around. We usually come to them and say we've got an idea, and they've got, as you guys all probably know, they've got an incredible sense of what's right and what's wrong for the band and for you guys, most importantly. So generally, they will listen to something that we have as an idea, and they'll either say, you know what, they'll say one of three things. They'll just say, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it, like this festival, which we actually thought of several years ago, and we refined it over time, and we waited until we had enough, the right time of year to do it, and the right schedule to do it, and like the 3D movie as well, and lots of other things. And so they'll either say, yeah, that's really cool, now what can we do to make it work? Or they'll say, no, this is bullshit, we're not going to do it, and they'll tell us why. Or they'll say, yeah, what can we do to make it better and make it right? And together we work on it. But honestly, it really is the other way around. They're the ones that usually, they've got a really good bullshit detector or a really good barometer for what works and what doesn't work. So they, honestly, I don't know that 20 years almost that I've worked with them, that they've ever come to us and said, we've got this really good idea, what do you think? And we've gone, no, not so much.
There you go. Who's got a question for Mr. Mark Ryder, management of Metallica? Yes, sir.
Hey, Mark, does Metallica ever talk about the bridge days with us and during the Kill 'Em All days and the early stages of Ride the Lightning?
Do they ever talk about the old days? They talk about the old days a lot, but you know, like I've only been with the company only. It'll be 20 years in November, but you know, so I wasn't around back then. But when I really learned about it, I mean, I was a fan back in the day, but when I really learned about it, and when the rest of us from the company, because even Cliff and Peter have only managed Metallica since '84, when we really got schooled on the old school days, was when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we sat down with the band, and this is one of the coolest things they've ever done. You guys probably all know the story, but if you don't, it's worth repeating. When Metallica were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we sat down with them and said, okay, what are we going to do for this? And they said, well, obviously, you know, a lot of you guys are all going to come, meaning management and the booking agent, everyone that's involved with the band now, but they said, we want to make sure that the people that we were with from day one are there. So they started giving us names of people, and none of us had ever heard of. They're going, there's this guy, you know, Who Lights, and there's this who unfortunately I believe is passed away, but they're naming these guys. They don't even know their last name. They're going, you got to find Who Lights, and you got to find Metal Mike, and you got to find this guy and that guy, and we don't know who they are. And the great thing is Lars and James especially, and Kirk, you know, came on a little bit later. They started telling us stories, and they for days and days they started telling us all the old school days, from Jersey and from Rochester when they made Kill 'Em All. So we got schooled on it, and it was really entertaining. It was really great. But what happened was Metallica paid to fly 175 people into Cleveland, and everybody was their guest for the induction ceremonies. It was one of the coolest things they ever did. And you know, they didn't do it for press, they didn't do it for publicity. They did it because they felt that was the right thing to do. And you know, it's one of the many reasons why they're the coolest band there is.
Nice. From Mark, we're talking with Mark Ryder, manager of Metallica. If you got any questions, this is your time to sit down and ask any question. I promise this young lady right here a question for Mr. Mark Ryder, and it's a good one. Makes sense, good timing.
Hi. What made you and Metallica make the decision to have the concert here in Atlantic City?
What was the decision to have the concert, the first festival right here in Atlantic City? Hey, we're doing an interview! I got one of the managers of Metallica, shut up! Level 7. Sorry, Mark, proceed.
Well, we tried to find a bunch of different locations, actually.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
When did you know? Because during the San Fran Fillmore shows, I remember Lars, they already knew, and I heard them talking, and he went to this, he told the crowd
just make sure something big's gonna happen over there in June. Just go to the website, huh? We'll see you in June. And we'll just checking. And everyone's like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, we've been talking about this festival for 5 years. When they played the Live Earth concert in 07, on 7/7/07, we hatched this idea that night in London, and we've been talking about it ever since. But we really started putting it together in earnest for about the last 2 or 3 years, and we settled on Atlantic City. I shouldn't say settled, but we had some other locations in mind, and it's not as easy as you think putting a festival together. Getting certain towns to say yes, et cetera, et cetera. And Atlantic City wasn't the first choice, but because there were some other places that had a better infrastructure than this did. But we wanted camping. We wanted a camping option and an RV option, which this location doesn't have. But it has better hotel options. There's lots of different logistics that I don't want to bore you with. But we decided on Atlantic City because of the hotel options. Because last year they had a Dave Matthews Band festival here, so we knew that it worked. And last weekend, you may not know, but they did Fish here. So it helped because there's already an infrastructure in place, and the production costs were a lot cheaper. Because Fish saved a lot of money by having us here, we saved a lot of money by having Fish here. So it made a lot of sense for those reasons. If everything works out this weekend, if you guys all have a good time, if the rest of the fans all have a good time, if the bands all have a good time, the chances are we're going to do another Orion Festival. Whether or not it's going to be in Atlantic City remains to be seen, but hopefully there will be another Orion Festival, and we'll decide where it's going to be, over the course of the next year.
We're talking with you are part of the Met Club. This is Mark Ryder. If you have no clue, been with the band 20 years. You got questions for the manager of Metallica. Now's the time to do it. You've been waiting. Yes, sir.
I just have a question. Last week was UAE. Okay, that's the first Arab country I